Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be, ladies and gentlemen, to the Egypt component of this year's annual Arab US Policymakers Conference. We have a country that is probably better known than any other country on the planet. Of the more than 200 countries, there's probably no school child anywhere who doesn't know where the Sphinx is, where the pyramids are, and something about the Nile Valley and river that runs the entire length of the country from north to south. Most as well are fully aware of Egypt's multifaceted contributions to other world cultures and civilizations since time immemorial and antiquity, and appropriately from the days of Antony and Cleopatra. And Cleopatra is the name of the firm of a resource specialist and speaker who will address the issues and opportunities and challenges in the Egyptian-US relationship. But let's pause just for a moment to realize the following facts that are unassailable, irrefutable, and laced with implications in terms of opportunities for trade, investment, technology cooperation, and more solid and enduring people-to-people ties that can bring this relationship to an ever stronger and improved level, as witnessed by the past week, the conclusion of the most recent Egypt-US strategic dialogue. Ponder the following, that 1 out of 4 of all Arabs on the planet is an Egyptian. Ponder the fact that Egypt possesses the Suez Canal, which is a vital link between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Aden and East Africa and South Asia and lands beyond to the east and lands beyond the Mediterranean to the west and to the north. We have a country that is home and host to the world's oldest university that's been dedicated from the beginning to train and educate and develop the leadership characteristics of moderate Muslim leaders and moderate versions of Islam. We have a country that is fabled for its tourism and for its vacation spot for rest and relaxation for those from the northern climes, just a 3-hour flight away from central, western, and eastern Europe to the Mediterranean beaches of Egypt and the Red Sea ones as well. I'm one who believes that Egypt's future with regard to tourism in the Mediterranean alone will eventually eclipse that of the Spanish, French, and Italian Rivieras. Anyone who's been to any of the latter three knows that around 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon, the sun seems to have disappeared. No, the sun is where it was before, but its rays are blocked by the mountains behind these Rivieras. Egypt has no such obstacle. The sun screams and streams across the Mediterranean, ricocheting its rays all the way until 9 o'clock in the evening. They're all the way unsurpassed, no obstacles from Egypt all the way to Libya. And the Red Sea, Sharm el-Sheikh, Hurghada, and elsewhere, the gems of snorkeling, deep sea diving, and rest and relaxation there with numerous world-class resorts. Few countries, if any, can boast of having 2 opposite direction paradises for vacationers, tourists, and those who are interested in archaeology, religion, and history. Mr. Mohammed Abou El-Enein, the founding president, chairman, CEO of Cleopatra, comes to these issues with zest and gusto since 1973, when he began with the first ceramics factory in Egypt, and within less than half a decade came to dominate the market and to have expanded its operations into more than 100 other countries, from which he's received numerous awards for his solid citizenship and corporate responsibility. On the latter, ponder the following. He has been a chair of the Pan-Mediterranean or Euromed Parliamentary Association with committees and institutions focusing on trade and commerce and business opportunities, investment occasions on both sides of the Mediterranean, north and south, and at both ends, west and east. With regard to Africa, of which Egypt is a country, people speak of Arab North Africa and they're thinking of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, but Egypt is solidly rooted in Africa and a member of the Pan-African Union from the beginning, a founding member there. Of the 55 countries in Africa, Egypt is en route to establishing, negotiating, facilitating free trade agreements with the overwhelming majority of those 55 countries. It's also in negotiations with the European Union to have comparable facilitations for a mutuality of benefit and a reciprocity of reward. His Excellency, in the most recent election, if one can believe it, garnered 85% of the vote from his constituents, who returned him once again to Parliament to represent not just their interest, but the interest of Egypt overall. On top of these activities, His Excellency has branched out to investments and development and modernization in the field of agriculture. He has helped to make the desert bloom, thousands of acres that were previously arid and barren. In terms of manufacturing and industry, he's a producer of smart cards. He's sort of an Arab version of Silicon Valley, and increasingly vice versa. Engaged as well in tourism and aviation, aviation maintenance and services. He happens to be a certified licensed pilot who flies his own aircraft. And in a recent conversation with him just 2 days ago, Yalmay Nilifat, he was flying his aircraft. Not many corporate CEOs and chairmen of such a vast enterprise of business networks can claim the same. His Excellency is a philanthropist. He's into charitable causes with regard to the needy, the lame, the halt, the widows, the blind, the wounded, the less advantaged on the educational front and the social and economic development front, providing them opportunities that would not otherwise come their way. Without further ado, please join me in listening to and welcoming His Excellency Mohammed Abou El-Enein. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Mr. Dak, thank you very much for your great introduction. As usual, you are a great man and you are things that you are making also a great introduction. Indeed, I feel that I'm between my brothers and my friends, which we are talking loudly to everybody that we make our experience to be passed to American society in a good manner, in an honest way. Indeed, what we've been talking as an introduction a few minutes ago is encouraging me a lot to say that we are glad for this warm relationship between Egypt and the United States. We are glad really to see that President Biden and his administration is in a good connection with our President Sisi and our government. We are glad to see the reality of also these declarations which happened between the foreign ministers, Egyptian and American, are talking in the same way. We are glad to see that they are celebrating the 100 years of relationship between Egypt and America. We are glad to see that they are making also the new strategy for future. We are glad to see that they are always exchanging views about all the circumstances and the cases and the problem in the Middle East. This is a real challenge. This is a real way of communication to see what we can do better for our people, Egyptian or American. Really, I'm sorry to tell you that there is sometimes American press start to declare or to write something which is not true, or to exaggerate something which will not happen, or to talk about some cases which is not presented as it is. And a few people only, when they see something, they talk about the reality. I'm glad to see a lot of American press comes here, because we receive a lot of people from the Congress coming to visit, and they realize what's happening. And other people come in an official way, DC also. And the press in America is neglecting our right. We felt that people are making bad information sometimes, or exaggerating information, or not true information. And it's a time now, through your conference and through also your colleagues, to start to talk about the facts, the truth about it. Indeed, Egypt today is booming. And what's happening in brief, we cannot even as Egyptians imagine that we could succeed to achieve it. What happened in these 7 years ago is a miracle by all meaning. The extension, what I want to tell you, that among the history of the Egyptian history, among the 7 years, 1,000 years ago and now, till now, we always stay around the Nile. And this area with a maximum of 5 to 6% from the Egyptian territory. Today, the plan is done that we, in these 6 years, we extended the Egyptian people to be 14% from the Egyptian territory. In 7 years, we extend the people more than what extended among the past 7,000 years ago. Egypt started to be extended in a well planned way, to extend all the governor for the 28th governor, to extend also the new cities. And cities could be administrative city, could be industrial city, could be agriculture society, complete agriculture society, in order to guarantee our food facility among the Nile, and also to guarantee also for the farmer some work and also some good life. We start to talk about industrial zone, and these industrial zones are coming in the north of Egypt, in Port Said, and among the way to Suez Canal, and also in the middle of Egypt, and also in Upper Egypt. Industrial zones, which specialty for a special industry, and also some countries, the same as a Russian country, make their industrial zone. Japanese country are thinking to make it. Chinese country make industrial Chinese country industrial zone, and also a huge investment comes from Italy in the Mediterranean in order to explore for gas, natural gas, and also the petrol. They succeed to make a good result and also very good profit. And we have also American people are in Egypt now making a great profit for the exploration of the gas and oil. In the meantime, we start to talk about the exploration of the gold in Upper Egypt. There is a huge area which is full of gold. And now a lot of countries, a lot of companies coming from different countries are coming to also to make agreement with the government to explore also for the gold with a special agreement. Now Egypt is booming in order to guarantee a social life, good social life, to quality of life, lifestyle of the people. And this is the part which is also like to talk about it, which the people neglected. When we talk about human rights, with the whole meaning of human rights, it's not only to talk about the opinion and the people in the jail. These are the people who are pressing only to go to the one direction. But I can assure you that lifestyle is changing, and human rights is a part of your Egyptian lifestyle. When we talk about education, when we talk about housing, when we talk about food, when about work, when about your lifestyle everywhere is a human rights. And this is what's going on to achieve to our people. People doesn't talk about this. People don't talk about what's happening in this increasing of schools, increasing of hospitals, increasing of universities among all Egypt. doesn't talk about this is how it's affected the youth people, how we interfere now, the youth people in the political life and also in the social life. These youth people, which is, we are talking about youth people, about these young people, especially for men and women. Now, I can tell you that in the Egyptian parliament, we exceed 25% of the members are women. And this is the first time in the life of Egypt. In the parliament of Egyptian parliament, is obligatory in our constitution, 25% in the parliament has to be from women participation. And if you see that this woman comes, educated women are participating in all the life of Egypt, coming to be minister, coming to be judge, coming to be police, coming to be architect, coming to be minister. This is our life. We are a country which are looking for a good future and also good lifestyle for all the society among all Egyptian territory. What I want to tell you now, that the chances for American, especially for the relationship between America and Egypt, is coming very solid. I think now we understand the Egyptian role, what's happening now, what's Egypt doing now for their people, and what is the policy of Egypt. Our policy is clear to everybody. We are people defend our right, will never neglect our right, will never forget our border, will never forget our land or our water, our Nile. And this is what I want to talk about it now. But in the meantime, we are keen to give, to have a very good relation with our neighbor. We have a wonderful relation now with European community, with people from China, Chinese people, Japanese people. We have with African people, with European people, with American people. We are keeping a good relation with all the people worldwide, and we are glad to have a cooperation. This is our aim and our way. Of course, other people would like to attack our right. We shall not permit. We are going to defend, to take our right. One of these rights is what's happening now concerning the water. The water, the River Nile, you know, is a historic thing since the life happened. And we have a lot of agreement with Ethiopia. And suddenly, Ethiopia people would like to make a dam. We are glad to make Ethiopia to make dam. We are very proud, and we are ready to help them to do the dam. And we are ready also to make them to make investment and to make agriculture and to make industry and to pass our experience with this country. These are our neighbor. But I think there is some political issue between these things. This thing is happening now, that these people always, although they determine to make a discussion, and when they come to sign, they escape. And this is also the United States is witness, because during Trump presidency happened this, and the three of them stay in Washington, and they agree for some terms, especially for the fulfilling, the time of the fulfilling and the management of the dam. So they stay, and they discuss, and they agree, and after when they come to sign, they escape. The same happening after the decision of the United Nations, which they say they talk about meeting in African Union, and we agree for all the points, and when they sign, also they say. So we understand that behind this thing is a political issue. Our right is the Nile is our life. The Nile is our future. We will not permit any power in the world to discuss. This is our historic life. And we are really a country of 110 million now. And this right, since the day 1902, I think it's more than 100 years ago, they agree for a quantity of 55 million cubic meter per year. Okay, this is our right. When we were 17 million inhabitants, this time was enough. But today, if you calculate the 110 million inhabitants and the arriving of the Nile, the water is 55 million, means that is 500 cubic meter per person. And this is under the value or the quantity which can guarantee the minimum for lifestyle. Lifestyle is considered always 1,000 for per person. Now we are 500. So we are in a poor situation concerning the water quantity. Sometimes we try to recover this from underground water or from desalination, from other sources, but still we are poor. So water here is our life. We are ready to discuss the matter again and again to arrive to a solution. And we are ready also to cooperate with a different country. Nile is our right, and I pretend the United States to support this as we agree, that they have to support this right in order and to press over the Ethiopian to accept a new agreement which can be make all the parts happy, or either Egyptian or Ethiopian or also the Sudanese people. This is, I think, is something which is very important to be done. One of the most important issue now is concerning the relation between Egypt and the United States, to talk about FTA. FTA, as everybody knows, America make FTA with Jordan and Morocco and Israel, and with us they make something called Quiz. Quiz is something also connected with Israel. So I think it's the time to make a direct FTA with us. United States, if they can make FTA with Egypt, will be a great chance to use a 1 million market inhabitants, because Egypt is already agreed and signed agreement with the 55 different countries in Africa. This allows all the Egyptian production to be exported to these countries, 55 countries in Africa, without custom duty. And this is a greater advantage. In the meantime, if you produce in Egypt, you can export also to the European community. It's, I think, as a 28 different countries without custom duty. And also 22 countries, the Arabic countries, without custom. So you talk about all this number in the area, and the north in Europe and south in Africa, you can export to the market size is about 1 billion inhabitants. This is a huge market, which you can consider that you exported without custom. It's a great chance for American investors to come to invest here and to re-export it also to all these countries. One of the most important things which we learned from COVID-19, which happened, what happened that if China doesn't allow export all the commodities which is necessary for industry or for required for daily use, what's going to happen? I think the worldwide now start to think about the alternative. This is something very important, and the place which can be very suitable in the middle of the world is Egypt, which you can use Suez Canal, you can use water, you can use the North Coast in the Mediterranean, you can see the east border, which you have the Red Sea in the other side. I think the location and the unique geographic location can help a lot for the future. Now, concerning the legislation and the policies is encouraging the foreign direct investors, which can stand in Egypt, has full 100% of their company, they can own it. They can also transfer the share to another company. They can increase their capital. They can reduce their capital. They can transfer their profit without any limitation. A huge company now making a profit in Egypt, and it's a time for the United States investors to come to see what's going on. Everything is open now, and we are glad to welcome in Egypt at any time. I think today we know that Egypt is playing an active part for the stability and security in the Middle East. And you see what's happening in Gaza when Egypt interfered between Israel and the Palestinian, and our people and our Secret Service succeed to achieve the ceasefire between them. And it was a very important goal at that time, and no power in the world can do this thing is at that time. But Egypt, with our service Secret Service succeed to do it. And also the conciliation between the two parts, the Palestinian, we succeed also to achieve it. I think in Libya, we have the same role. You see what happened in Libya, what happened that Daesh and also external forces comes to stay in Libya to make a big problem in the stability for the area. But Egypt and the President Sisi fixes the time and fixes the point that you cannot exceed this point. This is the red point which nobody is allowed to exceed this point. Otherwise, he's going to interfere because this is a point which also touch our security and our stability in the area. We cannot allow that Daesh move to threaten the world here. We cannot allow that other foreigner comes to make a confusion in the area again. It's enough what happened 10 years ago. We don't like to repeat it again. We would like to eliminate also the role of the Muslim Brotherhood in the area, and we succeed also to defeat all the terrorists in Sinai and the tourists in Egypt. Now, as you see, now Egypt is secure, Egypt is stable, Egypt is now the security and stability is clear to everybody. And that's why President Fattah al-Sisi 2 weeks ago declared the cancellation of emergency case in Egypt, which was among more than 10 years in the country. Now, Egypt, without any emergency case, all the people are happy to live under the normal circumstance and a normal law without any threat from other laws. Egypt is secure. Now, if you see the numbers of happening for these things, you are going to be very glad that we are achieving in each direction. If you talk about the new capital, the new administration capital in Egypt, it is a huge area of land, which is nearly 3 double of Cairo, existing Cairo today, which we are going to be transferred to this capital very soon now. The parliament, the presidency, the governors, the government, all are going to be there, removed in few months. A huge building happened, a huge investors are going there, a huge housing is built, and I think this is the future. If you see now, Egypt today is not the same as anymore. The extension is every day. Egypt is changing every day. Every day there is a big movement. And one number of most important number, which I'm proud to declare, that till now, since President Fattah al-Sisi became president, to now 7 years, we succeed to make 14,000 different projects in industry, agriculture, education, healthcare, housing, 14,000 different projects. And I think that visitors in Egypt can realize all the people are talking about what happened in Egypt. All the people can see that they are safe. They can see that big change which happened. And I am glad to invite all our colleagues in the United States, all our colleagues worldwide to come to see what's happened in Egypt. And if we can help for any chances of cooperation, I'm really glad to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and especially for pointing out information that seems to have escaped the attention of national media. It's not been part of the private sector national conversation. But from this point on, you have enabled us to have a good opportunity to distribute, to market, to broadcast, to share, to be a clearinghouse for the kinds of information you've shared and insight. The challenges of a free trade agreement are enormous, but you can say that the benefits upon the conclusion of such an agreement are even greater than enormous. The 55 African countries, imagine working with and through Egypt to have access to 54 other countries on the African continent, and the 28 countries in the European Union, and your 22 Arab countries. Neglected to mention that Egypt is the founding, guiding, visionary light for the establishment of the League of Arab States, the world's oldest regional organization dedicated to problem solving using diplomacy, peaceful and legal methodology. And it's also the headquarters of the League of Arab States. And in addition to what His Excellency made mention of having to do with achieving Gaza and the trauma and the tragedy and the turbulence and turmoil there, on one hand, and what it has been doing with regard to Libya, next door to the West, with the forthcoming elections, and its steadfast standing on the principle of non-interference in the domestic affairs of other countries, which is what has brought Libya to its state of civil war and domestic confusion, tension, and turmoil. But not least is the Camp David Accords of 1979 under then President Jimmy Carter of the United States. This is the longest standing peace agreement between Egypt and Israel, or between rather Israel and any Arab country. It was followed several years later by Jordan, but it remains to be seen whether there'll be something remotely comparable between Israel, say, and Syria, which remains occupied. 2/3 of Syria's richest province, the Golan, has remained occupied by Israel since the June '67 war, when Israel invaded and occupied Syria's most promising agriculture and water resource-rich province in that country. And Lebanon, which also remains a challenge. But His Excellency's work with the parliamentary mediation and in Egypt and with the Mediterranean countries positions him and his colleagues in an ideal place to make a difference on those fronts as well. Not to mention as well the 57 Islamic countries or members of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, the world's highest Islamic Muslim worldwide political body. And in this conference, we're fortunate to have Mohammed Abdul Karim Al-Isa, the Secretary General of the Muslim World League, to follow on His Excellency's comments pertaining to Egypt with regard to what's possible there as well. So, Your Excellency, you've opened a lot of windows, a lot of eyes, a lot of ears, and giving us much food for thought and thought for food. We're grateful to you for your support, for your interest and your involvement in taking time out from your extraordinarily busy and diverse schedule of public service to be with us for this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much again, Mr. Indeed, I would like to tell you two things now. The first is the declaration of the Second Republic. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, I think 3 months ago, has been declared that Egypt will make now the Second Republic. And this means a lot.
Yeah.
This is the celebration of the big progress which is happening for the lifestyle of the people and also for the new Egypt, the modern Egypt, which I'm really glad to present to you and to tell you now, I'm going to present you now a short film, which is going to be for a few minutes, just to show you what's going on in Egypt. And the second is the declaration of the new museum. In front of the pyramids, there is the new museum, which is going to be announced next year for the inauguration. And I think you are going to be one of the most important people comes to visit. And I admire that this new museum is going to be exposed on it. You see more than 100,000 pieces of the Egyptian, ancient Egyptian. And I think that in these months in Luxor, there is a big event, which is, I think it's around 25 of these months. It's going to be a big event in a new discovery in Luxor. So I think that a new, every day now, there is a new exploration of antiquity Egyptian either in Luxor, either in the pyramids, even in Saqqara, even other places in Egypt. And I'm glad to welcome you at any time to come to see what's going on. So allow me, please, to show you this film now in a few seconds. Go ahead.
Egypt, the civilization. Egypt, the past, the present, and the future. Egypt succeeded in the past years in stabilizing the pillars of the state and rebuilding its national institutions, and now begins a new era called achievements, and the work to achieve the aspirations of the Egyptian people in building a modern civilization that begins with the new republic.
شعب مصر العظيم، إنني أجدد معكم العهد وأصدقكم الوعد بأن نبدأ جمهوريتنا الجديدة المولودة من رحم ثورتكم العظيمة في 30 يونيو، عازمين على المضي قدما نحو المزيد من العمل والبناء.
With the announcement of not just distinguished buildings, but a new idea for a new country that stems from the new administrative capital, which is Egypt's gift to the world, and will become one of the latest smart cities in the world. The Egyptians faced an economic challenge for development and construction. During the past years, President Abdul Fattah el-Sisi's achievements have been made. And the list of national achievements is adorned with more than 14,762 projects that have been implemented at an estimated cost of 200 billion Egyptian pounds. And about 4,164 projects are being implemented at an estimated cost of 265 billion Egyptian pounds. Now in Egypt, the standard of living for individuals has risen, the quality of life for citizens has increased in general, and the services have improved with the implementation of a comprehensive plan of economic reform that has achieved tangible results, most notably creating an investment climate and improving the legislation environment to attract investors, which was praised by all international institutions. Those international certificates for Egypt did not come out of nowhere. Rather, they're a natural product of major national projects. Their achievements have transcended the limits of time, and other projects are currently being implemented. All of these projects are an integral, comprehensive concept of human rights that President el-Sisi has adopted since he took office. Recently culminated in the launch of the National Human Rights Strategy, Age, Education, and Capacity Building in Human Rights.
السيدات والسادة، إن الرؤية المصرية لحقوق الإنسان تستند على عدد من المبادئ الأساسية أبرزها أن كافة الحقوق والحريات مترابطة ومتكاملة، وأن ثمة ارتباطا وثيقا بين الديمقراطية وحقوق الإنسان.
In a historic step, President el-Sisi announced the cancellation of the state of emergency after decades of imposing this, and it indicates a clear stability of the Egyptian state, progress in terms of the economy, confronting corona, as well as terrorism, which has largely receded. A package of legislation and decisions were issued to support human, based on the right of every person to worship. A law was issued to organize, build, and restore churches in 2016, after it had been a dream for 150 years. In the context of concern for the health of citizens as a human right, many health initiatives were launched and the comprehensive health insurance law was issued. The Egyptian state has taken care of raising the educational level and enhancing the ability to innovate. The Egyptian state is also taking care of launching social initiatives to care for its low-income citizens. President el-Sisi has developed a strategy to eliminate slums as an inherent human right, and the rebuilding of 312 slums has been completed, with 45 slums remain to be rebuilt, which is currently underway. Many achievements have been made in the Egyptian women's rights file in recent years, and they've held positions they did not reach before. And the percentage of women's representation in the Council of Ministers increased to 25%. Women also held the position of judge, governor, and deputy governor by 32% of the total. And in parliament, the percentage of women's representation increased to 27%, which is the highest percentage of women in the history of parliament. Egypt's positions on the burning issues of Libya, Sudan, Lebanon, and Ethiopia, so the Egyptian state succeeded in establishing balanced relations with all countries all over the world, east and west, north and south, to strengthen deep ties with various brotherly Arab and African countries. On the regional level, Egypt's position continues with its contribution to the reconstruction of sister countries like Libya, Iraq, Yemen, and Palestine. And President Abdul Fattah el-Sisi's decision was issued to allocate $500 million for the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. Egypt confirms its leadership by expressing its strategic position on the Palestinian issue. The strength of the Egyptian state was also reflected in its hosting the upcoming COP27 climate summit after it was held in Britain this year. We're in the starting state. Egypt sends its call from the land of peace to all brothers and friends in countries all over the world. Cooperate with us for construction and development. Love, not hate. Construction, not demolition. Security and stability for our new Egypt and the entire world. Egypt rewrites history and draws a map for the future.
We'll bring this session to a close, but thank you again for introducing that illuminative, illustrative film clip, which dramatically, graphically, tangibly emphasizes the development, the momentum, and the modernization and the projects that look like typographical errors, but you can back it up with facts. And you've been candid in terms of eradicating more than 300 slums and en route to doing the same for 40 more. But especially valuable, Your Excellency, was your broadened definition of human rights, to go beyond gender rights and age rights, to include standard of living. This is not an ordinary definition of human rights, but for people's needs to meet their material requirements is essential for any society's health and well-being, and stability and security and confidence and an ability to plan and anticipate and predict and have a life of greater meaning and purpose than would otherwise be the case. Certainly not by accident, not by coincidence could one achieve such laudable goals and objectives, but by your broadening and making more inclusive what constitutes a human right is its own contribution for which we're grateful more than words can say, sir. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much for your great conclusion, and I'm really glad to continue for the near future to invite you to come to Egypt. I'm glad to continue also to pass you a lot of further information about what's going on in Egypt in order to relate to your press people. Really, this is a very important session that you have been, I'm sure that you have been acknowledged a lot of new information for you, and all the people which are going to see this, they are going to feel that this is the truth. This is what the feeling is talking about, the truth, and what I say is completely the truth. And people can understand the difference between this reality and the truth in front of all the other things, which could be little information or negative information. I'm really glad to welcome you again. And at any time you need any other information, I'm glad to respond to you. Thank you very much again to everybody.
Thank you, sir. All the best.
Egypt is one of the largest economies in Africa, and it's playing a vital role in the continent's economic progress. It was in the heart of the Egyptian desert that the Cleopatra Group was born, which in 40 years has grown to be a global flagship of African enterprise. years in which Cleopatra Group invested energy and resources to transform the arid desert into a source of prosperity for Egypt. We are constantly exploring fresh horizons in a search for new investment, employment, and development opportunities in different sectors. Mr. Mohammed Abou El-Enein is the founder and chairman of the Cleopatra Group. He has always seen the future as a good friend, rich in opportunities and embracing the most important value for an entrepreneur, development, the challenge of the next thing to do. Ceramica Cleopatra Group. The story started with the invasion of the desert in the 10th of Ramadan city in 1979. It started with the establishment of the first plant for manufacturing ceramics, porcelain, and sanitary ware in Egypt and the Middle East. Ceramica Cleopatra Group has been a pioneer in the northwestern Suez Gulf, where we established the biggest factory in the world that transformed the harsh desert into a giant industrial force that paved the way for investments in this promising area, so that Ceramica Cleopatra Group would become a formidable establishment with the highest production rates not only in Egypt, but all over the world. We achieved self-sufficiency in the local market through a distribution network that included 2,000 distributors. On the global level, our products that carry the slogan "Made in Egypt" have invaded the markets of over 100 countries around the world. We were able to penetrate the most difficult market in the world, the Japanese market, which could not be entered except through providing the highest standards of quality and uniqueness. Ceramica Cleopatra acquired the highest quality standard certificates and international awards, such as the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO's award, as the best industrial company in Africa in the field of creativity, innovation, and quality. This is the success story of the group, which reflects the volume of achievement that has been realized so far on the ground. Cleopatra Silicon Valley, part of the manufacturing world of Cleopatra Group. It is the first and the biggest smart card producing plant on both the regional and the continental scale. Cleopatra for agriculture developments. And the story of achievements continues. Founded in 1987, Cleopatra Agriculture is a mission-driven company aiming to address global food requirements by building, owning, and leading technologically advanced farms that grow locally, covering 20,000 acres, flavorful, safe, healthy food in a sustainable and socially responsible way. Cleopatra Agriculture established farms in the 10th of Ramadan city, Nobaria, Wadi Molek, and east of Wynad to serve the country and provide agricultural development. Cleopatra for tourism development. Cleopatra resorts are designed with passion and care, offering the best of Egypt in terms of accommodation, hospitality, and luxury. Set in some of the most attractive locations in the country and in the Middle East, Cleopatra resorts are the best chance to discover Egypt's wonderful natural and cultural heritage. We established Cleopatra Luxury Resort Sharm el-Sheikh, Cleopatra Luxury Resort Makati Bay, and our next opening will be an integrated touristic complex on the Egyptian Mediterranean coast, not far from Marsa Matruh International Airport. And also the Marsa Wazar project, an integrated touristic complex on the Red Sea. Cleopatra for real estates. Cleopatra Group has developed large residential projects aiming to improve the lifestyle of its customers and communities' global quality of life. Cleopatra Group is committed to several residential projects, including Cleopatra Palace in Shuruk, Cleopatra Square in 6th of October, Cleopatra Plaza in Cairo and Alexandria, and the Fontainebleau Mall, a groundbreaking retail and leisure complex in the 6th of October city. Cleopatra Media. It is one of the achievements of Cleopatra Group, which includes Sada El Barad TV network. 25,000 employees comprise Cleopatra Group's loyal sons. Yes, It's Cleopatra Group. After remarkable success as a businessman in 1995, Mohammed Abou El-Enein became a member of the Egyptian parliament. Service to the country that would last for 4 consecutive 5-year terms. In parliament, he was first elected chairman of the Committee of Housing and Reconstruction, and then chairman of the Committee of Industry and Energy. In 2008, Abou El-Enein was elected by the Parliamentary Assembly of the Union of the Mediterranean to be the chairman of their Committee on Economic Finance and Social Affairs and Education. 2 years later, the speakers of the parliaments of 37 Arab, European, and Mediterranean countries elected Mohammed Abou El-Enein to become president of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. Throughout his long business and political career, Mohammed Abou El-Enein, the founder and chairman of Cleopatra Group, never forgot his social responsibilities towards Egypt and Egyptians. In 2001, Abou El-Enein Social Foundation was established. A non-governmental organization, it contributes to human development, women's empowerment, and social welfare. Throughout a journey that has lasted 40 years, Mohammed Abou El-Enein has not only achieved major successes, but grown to be an inspiration for many young businessmen and investors. 4 decades of hard work, flair, and vision have shown that anything can be achieved in Cleopatra Group, even from the most challenging of beginnings.